The transfers are coming from left and right and from sport to sport. We're talking about them all today and how the Gophers will move forward from each and every one of them.
Hey,
you are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. We've got lots of new news about the Gophers teams, especially the men's basketball team and the football team. Lots of transfers that have been hitting the portal officially. We're going to talk about it all today. Be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss this news. And then we've got some big things on the horizon as well. So we're going to talk about it all. Be sure to listen wherever you get your podcast. Leave a 5-star review so others can find it, and hit subscribe on YouTube. But let me know your thoughts on these departures. Let me know your thoughts on these transfers. Wish them luck, but let's talk about it down in the comments over on YouTube. And we're going to kick it off first with the basketball team. We're going to talk about the transfers with the basketball program. And you know what? The first of these two transfers coming from the men's basketball program. The first is the freshman Jaden Henley from California. Started in 18 games this season, averaged about 5 or 6 points this year, but he was really coming into his own as the year was ending. Now, if you go back to one of our previous shows and you talk about or you look at what we talked about here on the show and what we are thinking moving forward, there were two major question marks on this roster moving forward, and two major question marks about who will or won't be with this team. And those two question marks were Jaden Henley and Tristan Thompson, both of which were the two players that each entered their name into the portal today here on March 13th. And it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, especially the Tristan Thompson when we saw that one coming. But Jaden Henley, you had a little bit of hope. You had a little bit of, he's been playing a lot. He's been getting a lot better. He's seeing a lot more opportunities. Maybe, just maybe, he will stick around and continue to grow with the program. But alas, that was not the case. And you know what? That was probably wishful thinking, because if you think back to it and you think back to the moment that Dennis Evans asked for his release from his national letter of intent, which is already something that doesn't happen too often unless there's a major coaching change and they really want to play for that coach, the coach leaves, and then they want to be released. That's typically the only time you see that type of thing happen. But the fact that he asked for it with no major coaching change, and the reasoning was not because the team was not playing well, and I think we can attest that wasn't the reasoning, because the team Dennis Evans went on to choose and is officially committed to is Louisville. Now, Minnesota had 9 wins on the season. Louisville had 4. So it definitely wasn't the lack of winning that really put Dennis Evans off. Now, I am starting to be a firm believer that money played a big role, a big involvement in this one, especially in the constantly ever-changing NIL landscape. Now, I think that played a big role of it, but the reasoning that a source told our guy over at the St. Paul Pioneer Press in Andy Greeter, they told him, look, they didn't like that the freshmen weren't the focus of the program. Now, if you were watching Gophers basketball, just like I was watching Gophers basketball, Pharrell Payne, Joshua Joseph were getting heavy rotational minutes. In fact, all 4 freshmen, when healthy, were getting 20-plus minutes a game. So you can't use that as a legitimate excuse. But if you notice the timing of it all, and something we've talked about on this show previously, Jaden Henley's minutes dropped off for a good portion of the January and part of February up until the IU game, where the Gophers were heavily undermanned and only had about 7 players to play. That's when his minutes started to take back up. But prior to that, his minutes heavily dropped off. And you could kind of assume that maybe the focus that wasn't being put on the freshman was more towards Dennis Evans' best friend, Jaden Henley, who wasn't getting enough time. Maybe he's reporting back saying, you know what coach told me and all this, it wasn't what he promised or what all it takes. Look, you're talking about two best friends. If your boy goes out a year before you and he joins a squad and he's like, yo, everything's perfect. I love it here. It's great. Everything I was told was true 100%. And then he doesn't get the minutes he wants, or he doesn't play the way he wants, or he doesn't like how a coach said something to him. Any little thing goes wrong. And you go back to your boy and you're like, look, nope, it ain't it. Don't come here. Get out while you can. I'm about to be out too. Then of course you're going to be like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to head out. Please release me. I'm ready to go. Jaden Henley might have told Dennis Evans straight up, look, I'm hitting the portal. So I just wanted to give you a heads up because I know I played a big role in why you wanted to come here so we could play together, but I'm not trying to be here anymore. It seems like we've known for a long time that Jaden Henley was likely going to hit the portal, and now it is officially official. Now, again, he showed flashes down the line. He showed flashes of things coming together. His shot was starting to fall a little bit more. He was getting more aggressive in his attack. He was playing better defense. He was using his length to his advantage. But in the end, it's all for naught, because he hit the portal and he's looking for another opportunity. Now, I think he may think he will have more opportunities than he ends up getting. We'll see what happens there, but regardless, we wish nothing but the best for him moving forward in his journey with college basketball. Regardless, he is going to have to get stronger to be able to produce at a high level in any high major program if he moves on to another high major program. We'll see what happens there, but those two kind of hand in hand, we had an idea that transfer was coming. And Trayton Thompson, another one that we think or thought, you know what, he's probably going to hit the portal because the opportunities weren't there. Even once Dawson Garcia was still injured, but we were playing still with a smaller rotation. We were playing with just like the four freshmen, Jamison Battle, Tor Samuel started to lose minutes, but Talon Cooper was out there. And you really just ran with those 6-7 guys until Dawson came back. Then Trayton really got no time, no tick whatsoever. And you know what? I appreciate him for doing all that he could, all that he was willing to always go out there and do whatever he could with the opportunities that he was given. Now, I just don't think that it was the right fit for him. The opportunities weren't there. He maybe wasn't strong enough to bang around in the Big Ten on a night-to-night basis, but there were moments, including the Indiana game, where he really stepped up for this team and helped when they needed it big time. Even if they didn't come out with a dub, he was a contributor in a handful of games this season that really helped the Gophers. So much love to the center, the Minnesota native, but alas, it just didn't work out. And we'll keep an eye and keep you posted on where he is headed moving forward, but likely to a program where he can get more opportunity and more minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being a lower major opportunity, which is not something that's bad, because regardless, you want to get the time, you want to get the minutes, and you want to get the opportunity to play while you still can with eligibility. So best of luck to those two guys, but they're major departures for the men's basketball team moving forward, and we'll see what happens, because with that leaves 5 scholarship openings for the Gophers as it currently stands if Jamison Battle and Talon Cooper are to leave, as we anticipate they are, as it's kind of even been said by Coach Ben Johnson. Those guys were likely going to take a shot at the pros. And hear me when I say this. Pros does not mean they're taking a shot at the NBA. They're only going for the NBA. They think they're going to get drafted. That's not what the pros means, taking a shot at the pros. Not everybody is looking to play at the NBA from the jump. Now, yes, it's every basketball player's dream to get to the NBA, but sometimes you recognize that opportunity isn't going to be maybe the way you thought it would be. Or maybe you recognize, you know what, I'm trying to play overseas. I'm trying to get a good contract where I make healthy money. I get international experiences where I travel the world and I am seen as a celebrity to other people in other countries. That is still professional basketball, and both of these guys will have opportunities in another country for sure. Now, could they try to go play in the NBA? Possibly. I don't think either would get drafted, but They could find their way on a G League team and try to fight their way up. Everybody who's played 2K a little bit here and there, you've seen your story arc where you jump into the G League and you push it and you try to make a name for yourself and get into the NBA. That's a possibility. We've seen G League guys make names, carve out roles for themselves, and play at the highest level. I mean, look at Fred VanVleet. That's my guy, 815, Rockford, Illinois. Look, he played in the G League. He was undrafted, played in the G League, got a G League MVP, I believe, but he was on a contending team in the G League, then fought and scrapped his way to the Raptors, then ended up being a championship winner with the Raptors, a huge piece on that team that contributed in a heavy manner, made an all-star game. Look, anything is possible. It's all about the grind. It's all about the work. It's all about the opportunity. And that's what those two guys will look to do next. But let's talk about the transfers in another sport, and that's with football, which we're going to talk about next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Built Bar. See, Built Bar is that 100% covered in real chocolate protein power packed bar that has 17 grams of protein, but only about 130 calories, 4 grams or less of sugar. Look, I'm telling you right now, it hits the spot. It tides you over. It helps you from lunch to dinner, breakfast to lunch, after a workout, you name it. It hits the spot. It fills you up, and it can just, I don't get how they can do it all, make it taste good, and it's good for you. Like, what? How often does that happen? But it does with Built Bar. So let's talk about what is happening with Built in the March Madness tournament, because the Built March Madness bracket is here. And we know you have a favorite bar or puff if you've tried them out there, and it's now time to make your opinion and your vote count. If you go to builtmarchmadness.com, you can vote for your favorite bars. Now look, I'll be voting for the Cherry Barcia because that bar is my jam. And if you want the Gophers to win, then you're going to be voting for that bar too, to support your team, support your bar or puff. And then when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you'll be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built Bars. That's right, a free box. And not only that, but one Locked On lucky winner will get a 12-month subscription to Built to have the best Built Bars delivered to you every month straight to your door. You got to try it. Built is the best protein bar out there ever. Seriously, it's amazing. It's good for you. So take a shot at it. Definitely head on over to that builtmarchmadness.com and get in on the vote today. All right, Gophers fans, thank you for listening to Locked On Golden Gophers and making us your first listen when it comes to Gophers Daily Sports. Now we're talking about the transfers with the Gophers. We talked about the basketball transfers. Now we're hitting it over to the football side of things. We've got two guys that have officially put their names into the portal that we haven't yet talked about, both on the offensive side of ball. The first, before we get to the actual names themselves, both of these names have been brought up on this show as guys that are likely or potentially would be on the higher side of hitting the portal. I didn't expect it until after the spring game, but when you know, when you're getting into these practices and you're getting in the swing of things and you're seeing how things are playing out, you might hit the portal right away just because, you know what? I know it's not for me here anymore. I know I'm not going to fit into the system. I'm not going to get the opportunity I'm looking for. And that is what we're seeing here with Michael Brown-Stephens and with Trey Potts, both veteran guys now with this Gophers team, have been with the program for years on the offensive side of things. Michael Brown-Stephens was heavily featured in the spring game this time last year, but things didn't work out. He got a lot of opportunities, he got a lot of time this season, and there were some missed moments for sure. The Purdue game comes to mind, but regardless, the opportunities and the additions that the Gophers have brought in have just made it at least apparent that it will be hard for him to find a role and find the time in this offense. You're talking about, you've got Chris Ottman-Bell coming back, which no one would have expected heading into the season, but the injury ended up giving him a med red, and he is going to be back for the next season. You've got Daniel Jackson, who absolutely stepped up in Chris Ottman-Bell's wake, and he ended up leading the team in receiving yards. He might have led in receiving touchdowns as well. Then you've got some young guys still on the roster. You've got 3 wide receiver commits coming to the program this year, on top of Christian Hoskins, who is back with the Gophers this year, true freshman from last year who used a red shirt. You've got Dalen Wright coming back. He's obviously been on up and down with the Gophers, but he could see more opportunities. And then you've got 2 transfers on top of that, on top of all that I just listed. Look, if you don't see your opportunities coming through in these spring practices and the spring game, you're likely falling down the depth chart, which means you might need another opportunity elsewhere, a fresh look, a fresh vibe, a fresh opportunity. And that's what it seems like, especially for Michael Brown-Stephens in this case. So again, we'll wish him nothing but the best. Hopefully he can find a spot that feels like home and get the opportunities that he needs. But that wasn't the only departure. As I mentioned, Trey Potts, again, the names in front of him, there's just a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism in these skill position rooms. You're talking about, we brought in graduate transfer Sean Tyler, who ran for over 1,000 yards for the past 2 seasons and gets involved in the receiving game as well and the kick return game. He's got speed, probably the fastest guy in the room. Maybe Darius Taylor could push him, but I'm pretty sure Sean Tyler is the fastest guy in that running back room. He's going to see opportunity with his only year of eligibility, where he flipped from his Oklahoma State commit to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They're absolutely going to get him involved. And then you're talking about, okay, so then who comes in as the running back 2? Well, if Potts is seeing that he isn't going to have that look and that opportunity and that shake with a new running back coach and new athletes in the room, that could lead to this departure, this transfer portal entry. And so, like I said, in that running backs episode we've already talked about, and if you've missed it, I'll link it at the end of the show. I think Zach Evans is going to surprise a lot of people, and I think he's going to push for a good split in these carries. I could see it going to the point where maybe it's more of a 35-30% split, where Sean Tyler takes 35, Zach Evans takes 30, but he could really try to make it feel like a 50-50 workload between the 2 guys. And obviously we have Darius Taylor, 4-star guy that Michigan tried to pull at the end, along with a couple other Big Ten schools. So much talent in the room. And if Darius Taylor is looking the part, Zach Evans is pushing for that starting spot, Sean Tyler is coming through, plus you've still got Bryce Williams on the roster as well. Look, it's hard, folks. It's hard to not see that the opportunity to be the number 1 guy in the starter, which is likely something Potts wants, isn't there. It just isn't there for him this year. So I don't blame him for hitting the portal. Maybe he goes and he teams up with Kenny Burns over at Kent State and is able to join that room and hit it from the ground up. Maybe he finds another opportunity at a different Power 5 school. But regardless, we thank him for all the time he has spent with the Gophers, for fighting through the injuries, for coming back and being a part of a special team. Both of these guys, we appreciate the work they've done and what is to come for them. But it's going to be different pastures, greener pastures for them, because it isn't here with the maroon and gold. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about coming up next, we're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about Gophers that have the opportunity to get drafted. A pro day is coming up this week, which I will be at. So if you want all the latest updates when it comes to pro day information, be sure to give me a follow over at Gophers Kane Rob. I'll be sure to tweet, if allowed, where I can at that pro day to let you know kind of what we're seeing and what's shaking out there. But we're going to talk about the pro options for these Gophers coming up next. First, a message from our friends over at FanDuel. Now, FanDuel is where you can go find the best options, the best lines, and the updates for the NCAA tournament that is going to be happening here this week. It's March Madness, folks, and you absolutely want to get involved with FanDuel, where you can go take advantage of a no-sweat first bet that's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win on your bet. So if you win, good on you. If you don't, you can win up to $1,000 in bonus bets. All you got to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's secure, it's safe, it's super easy to use. And then you can go bet on spreads, money lines, totals, player points, props, you name it. You can even do same game parlays to try and increase the money that you get after a win. So don't miss the chance on a no sweat first bet. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook betting partner of Locked On. All right. So I appreciate you. We've talked about all the transfers that have hit the portal as of the past 24 hours. I want to know your thoughts down below. I want to know who you'll miss, what you're thinking, maybe who steps up in their wake, who gets more opportunities because of these transfers. But we're going to wrap this thing up talking about the professional opportunities for the Gophers football team that are coming up. The NFL draft is on its way. I do think that we'll have 4 Gophers drafted in this one. I would be shocked if we didn't get the 4 up there. And there will be others with the opportunity, with the chance, with trying to make a name for themselves, especially this coming Wednesday, where the Gophers will be having a pro day here at the Twin Cities. They'll have scouts here on hand. And let me tell you who is going to be involved in that. So not only is it the 4 guys from the Combine, John Michael Schmitz, Mo Ibrahim, Jordan Howden, and Terrell Smith, but we've also got Axel Rushmeyer coming through. We've got Chuck Filiaga. Both of those offensive linemen will be attending the pro day and participating. Tanner Morgan, also Thomas Rush, the edge rusher, Mariano Sori-Marin, and Matthew Trickett will all be in attendance and participating as well. So lots of Gophers trying to boost or increase their draft stock this Wednesday. And so that'll be kicking off at 9 a.m. I'll be in tow, so definitely feel free to give me a look. And as I forget, there it is. So feel free to give me a shot on Twitter, Gophers Kane Rob. I'll keep you posted over there. But let's talk about the thoughts, because I think 4 Gophers get drafted. I think some of these guys can maybe get a camp look, maybe get an invite. But I think for sure the Combine guys, I think they'll get drafted. I think Jordan Howden, with the speed he put on in the 40, I think with the size he brings, I think with the leadership and the intellect on the field that he brings, I think he will get a shot somewhere. It might be a day 3 pick, but regardless, I think he'll get an opportunity. Mo Ibrahim, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if he did not get drafted. I've just from the rumblings I've heard, just from the things that Coach Rossi has said about his connections in the NFL and what they've told him with Mo, I think Mo showed his pass catching ability. He showed his shuttle ability, at least in the short areas and the quick areas with the quick feet. So I think overall, we all know Mo isn't a burner. He isn't a guy that's going to burst off for an 80-yard touchdown. But what he is he's scrappy. He reads the field really well. He's got good contact balance. He fights through contact. He gets extra yards. He always falls forward. He knows how to run low, keep his pads lower. Low man always wins. Mo Ibrahim will get a look. He's not going to be a guy that is going to be a workhorse, a dog, a guy that you're going to run the ball to 30 times in the NFL. But if he can land in a system that utilizes him right, and he lands in a committee where they can use him in the short yardage, they can use him in the grinding territories, they can use him in the red zone, I think he will find a successful career in the NFL, even if it's 3 years, 4 years, something short with a running back. That I think Mo will have a good career. I think he'll get drafted. So I'm excited for those 2 to get opportunities. But I think John Michael Schmitz and Terrell Smith are locks. Absolutely. John Michael Schmitz could find himself in day 1. We'll see what happens with this pro day and if it helps him continue to boost his stock. We know Senior Bowl did. And then we got Terrell Smith, who I've seen all sorts of things on. He ran a 4.41 officially at the Combine. He's got the size, he's got the length, he's got the speed, he's got the instinct. He can play man-to-man. He impressed the Patriots staff at the Shrine Bowl. Look, he's gonna get drafted. It's just a matter of when. Could he see his name creep up into the late day 2? Maybe with a really good pro day. Maybe with the right team, keeping an eye, but I do think he's going to be a gem. I would honestly be shocked if he gets past the 4th round. There are a lot of scouts out there, a lot of analysts as well that have been like, look, I'm not hearing his name enough when it comes to other analysts talking about this guy, or I'm not seeing his name enough when it comes to the mid rounds of this draft, because dude is what you look for in a defensive back. So I have no doubts he's getting drafted. It's just a matter of where and when. I think I'm thinking 4th round, folks. I'm thinking 4th round with Terrell Smith. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for it. And then these other guys, they will be pushing for camp spots. They will be pushing, but the Gophers program has been developing players very well, and I'm excited for it all. We'll keep you posted, like I said, about the Pro Day, which is taking place this Wednesday starting at 9 a.m., and we'll go from there. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of coverage on these guys as we get closer to the NFL draft, but I just wanted to give you a quick touch base. And then we've got the spring practices in full tow. The first one that's available to the public is March 28th. There's another one available in April as well. So definitely feel free to jump in, see your Gophers live, see what's happening, see who's coming up the depth chart, see who's making a name in spring. That's going to do it for us here at Locked On Golden Gophers. I appreciate you listening. Be sure to hit subscribe, and let's do this thing again tomorrow. We'll talk about John Michael Schmitz. A lot coming up tomorrow. I'll see you then. This is Kane Rob signing off. Row the boat, Sky Umont. Go Gophers.